Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Simple Home and Hearth Kitchen. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make your own ghee. Now, ghee is a type of clarified butter. It's a staple in the country of India. They use it for everything, and it's really good. But if you buy it in the store, it's very, very expensive. So today I'm going to show you how to make your own. And so let's get started. Now, first of all, for the ingredients you're going to need, you'll need a stove or some kind of heat source, of course. And you will need, to make the ghee, unsalted butter. I use 4 pounds of butter, and I get this at a big box store. And it has to be unsalted. If you use salted butter, your ghee, instead of creamy and smooth, can be a little gritty because the salt content of the butter. It becomes very gritty. So you're going to need unsalted butter, and you're going to need a pot. I do this in a Dutch oven. And you're going to need some jars, mason jars. I use half-pint jars, and you notice I have my half-pint jars in an oven-proof pizza pan just because it's big enough to hold everything. And the lids to those jars I have put in the center. Can you see that? Put it in the center. And you think, why is that? Because we have preheated our oven to 250 degrees. Low and slow, baby. We're going to put these jars and these lids in the oven for 15 minutes to heat, let the rubber seals get soft, and to sterilize the jars. So we're going to put them in the oven. Now that my oven is preheated, I'm going to set my timer for 15 minutes, and I'll be back. Okay. While the oven is preheating and my jars are sterilizing, I am going to be taking the blocks of butter that I purchased at the store. These are 1 pound blocks. They're not what do you call them? They're not chopped in 4, okay? They're just a solid block of butter. But that's okay because we're going to be melting it all anyway. I don't really care, and if you buy it like this, it's cheaper. So while my jars are sterilizing and my lids are heating up in the slow oven, I will be cutting these blocks of butter up and putting them into my Dutch oven. And I'm only doing this because it's going to help it just melt a little bit faster. Sticks, that's what you call them. Sticks. Ta-da! 1 stick. That's all. If you have butter that's already in sticks, you can just throw them in there. But I'm going to have to do this with all 4 pounds of butter, so I will see you in a minute. Okay, so I've got my 4 pounds of butter chopped up in my Dutch oven. I am going to turn the heat on to medium-high. And set that to melting. My timer hasn't gone off on the oven yet, so we'll get this started to melt now. Make sure that your heat is low enough that when the butter starts to melt, it doesn't bubble and scorch before the rest of the stuff on top is melted down into what's already melted. So watch your heat, watch your flame. If you are using an electric stove, which I did for years, just watch it. Take it off the burner, stir it, let it melt a little bit, put it back on the burner, let it melt some more. You know, that's how you control the heat on an electric stove. I happen to have a beautiful gas stove, and I can just turn the heat up and down, easy peasy. So watch for that, and we will be back when the butter is melted, and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, I moved my camera to the opposite side of the stove so you could see what's down in here better. I wanted to clarify something. And when I say Dutch oven, this is my Dutch oven, but it is not cast iron. This is my cast iron Dutch oven. I have two of these, actually. I love cast iron, and I cook with it a lot. But when you're making ghee, you don't want to use cast iron, because it either needs to be, you can use cast iron if it's coated on the inside. But you don't want to use straight cast iron, because that metal and the taste of the iron will get in your butter and it'll color it, discolor it, and just kind of make it taste and look a little funky. So you want the butter to be as clarified and as clean as possible. To give you a little bit more information about ghee, people say, oh, it's clarified butter. Well, yes and no. Clarified butter is kind of cooking it till it becomes clear, and we will get to that process. But once it's clarified, you continue to cook it until all of the milk solids separate from the fat and they start turning brown. They toast and they start falling to the bottom. And once all of your milk solids are completely separated from everything else, the clarified liquid, then your ghee is ready to put in jars. And so to me, I like to call it, ghee is more of like a further process of clarified butter. It's toasted clarified butter. But ghee can also be used by people that are lactose intolerant. And beware of what some people call ghee. All they do is clarify their butter and can it that way, just to preserve the butter. But they haven't removed all of the milk solids, which has the lactose. So this process, we're going to cook it enough where all of the milk solids are gone. They're going to be strained out before we put them in jars. And so people that are lactose intolerant can actually use genuine ghee, G-H-E-E. They can use genuine ghee in place of butter. All right, my timer went off and I think it cut off my video. But the 15 minutes are done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut the oven off, but I'm not going to remove the jars or the lids from the oven. I have my rings sitting here because they'll get pretty warm sitting here. But I'm gonna leave my jars and lids in the oven just to stay hot, but I don't want them to further cook, I guess you'd say. But okay, the oven is off, jars and lids are hot, and you can see right now that all of the butter is melted. See if I can get a better picture of this. You see all of my butter is melted, but it's still milky, right? Another tool that you're going to want to use when making ghee is, my favorite tool in the kitchen is one of these babies. It's I call it a skimmer. There might be a more official term for it, but in this house we call it a skimmer. A skimmer, because it skims all the fat and foam and everything else off the top of whatever you're cooking. I use this puppy a lot. So we're going to continue cooking this low and slow. And if it gets to boiling, I'm actually going to turn my fire down a little bit. And you want to stir often, extremely often. You don't have to stir consistently, and I suggest you probably don't, because then you'll be mixing all of those milk solids back in. So just kind of let it sit for a minute. And make sure to watch it at all times, because you don't want it to boil over. It will start bubbling to the top. So we're going to get this heated up, get this to simmering, and I'll show you what it looks like after a few minutes. Okay, I am going to show you what's happening right now. it's been boiling for probably 3 minutes. I've turned the heat down to low. But you see all this foam that's come up from the top? This is when I start scooping with my skimmer. And I have here my trusty dusty bucket of compost waste. Right here. Trusty bucket compost. And I just take and start siphoning off the foam on the top of this butter. These are just milk solids. Some people skim their ghee, some people don't. Some people just let it cook down and drop to the bottom and they strain it out later. But I have a kind of a small pan here and I don't want it to bubble up. So I try to skim off as much of this fresh foam as I can so I don't have to deal with it later. We have a friend of ours outside mowing the acreage. It desperately needed it. If any of you watched my intro video this morning, you could probably tell the grass was pretty long. All the clover were sticking way up, almost to my knees. Don't know if it showed up in the video or not, but anyway. There we go, that's good enough. There's still a little foam on the top, but we're gonna let that go for now. And I will continue to cook it down. It's been cooking for probably 10 minutes already. This process is going to take, honestly, between 40 minutes to an hour. It takes a lot of patience. Low and slow, baby. Don't be in a rush. Okay, the ghee has been cooking for about 5 minutes, from the last video clip when I turned the camera off. And you can already start to see some of the milk solids separating from the fat. I don't know if you can see that in the camera very well. Little chunks already starting to form. Yeah. It's on low. My heat is on low. Let's see if you can see that. See, it's just barely on. And I might actually just turn it up slightly, 1 or 2 steps above low. And we're going to keep cooking this on low for quite a while. I will watch the time and I will get back with you and tell you how long it's taken me to get to the next stage. Let's check out our neighbor. His name is Jeff. It takes him about 4 hours to mow all 3 of our acres once he trims and mows and everything. He is such a blessing and a godsend. Thank you, Jeff. There he is, batting away all of the bugs. Oh my goodness. He's the best. Okay, you can see it's been just slow simmering for, let's see, 34 minutes. And I still have a lot of milk solids. But let me try to get this up closer so you can see. Look how much they're separated though. You see that? All that stuff. I'm not going to worry about the foam that's on top. That's going to eventually break down and sink to the bottom as well. And if it doesn't, I will skim it. But if you can see, as I move it underneath, look at all those milk solids in that. It's just like little rice granules, but it's milk solids. They're separating from the pure fat content. And it's been cooking for now 35 minutes exactly. I didn't stir it but maybe once. Just let all that cook down, and it's not anywhere near ready, so we're gonna go for another little bit and I'll get back with you later. Okay, we are back. It has been slow boiling for probably let's see, 55 minutes. Yeah, and I'll show you what it looks like now. There's still a lot of foam from the top, but look how dark brown it's gotten. And I'm gonna have to take all of this foam off. Into my trusty dusty. I'm gonna shut the heat off right now. And I did make a mistake by turning the oven on and getting my jars hot when I first started the process. It's been a while since I've made ghee, and so I just forgot how long it actually takes to make it. So I'm going to turn the oven back on and reheat my jars. They're already sterilized. I just kind of want them hot. And they've been in there for a little over an hour. So and I don't know if you can see this, but look at all the milk solids that are coming off the bottom. See that? All of the milk solids are just toasted and they're on the bottom. This, my friends, is ready. So we have cooked this for an hour with all of the milk solids on the bottom, and my skimmer, the holes in it are too big to catch all of the little milk solids at the very bottom. So we are ready to put it in the hot jars, and the fire is off. I'm gonna let it sit for just a few minutes until my jars reheat in the oven, and I will be right back. I do want to show you one trick, however, and be very, very careful when you do this. There's still a little bit of white foam along the edges, and I really want to try to get rid of that. So I'm taking the rough side of a paper towel, and I'm going to put it in there and just kind of move that paper towel around to pick up all of that white foam on the edges that my sifter won't get. Look at that, see? Ta-da! Works really well. A little bit left right there I'll get. Alright, I just wanted to show you that tip. There's a little bit left, but that's no big deal. It'll dissipate when we can it. I'll be right back. Okay, now all of my jars are hot, and I'm getting ready to take them out of the oven, and I'm going to put them right here on top of this cutting board with a towel on it just to protect it from the heat. And we'll start filling the jars with ghee, and I'll show you how I do that. I have to get my tools. I'll be right back. Okay, so I have my trusty dusty tool, the magnet lifter. Love, love, love. And this is my scoop, and it's massive. This one scoop will probably fill one of those jars, just one scoop. And then I have my apron measured canning funnel. Love, love, love. All right, let's get started. We're wanting to fill each of these jars with ghee. And I don't know if you can see that really well, but do the best we can. All right, you know what? I almost forgot. I made a critical error, just about, not quite. I need to filter this so none of those milk solids get in the jar. And so I will be right back. I've got to get the tools to do that. Okay, I'm back. There were two ways I could have done this. For the sake of the video, I'm just going to use a round sifter. And the reason is because if I were to use my cotton flour sackcloth, which I would have preferred to use, you would not be able to see in the video what it looks like while I'm pouring. So because I would just use, you know, a little corner of it like that, pour it in there, and you wouldn't be able to see anything. If I were just doing it by myself without videoing, that's what I would use. But for now, we're gonna go with this. And if there is a minute little speck of toasted milk solids that happen to get in one of the jars, for our family, it's no big deal because neither of us are lactose intolerant. I don't want that to happen, but if it does happen, you know, it's gonna be okay. We're not gonna die. All right, let's get going here. And I'm just working from the top and pouring this down into the jar. These jars are very hot. They just came out of the oven. And I am going to fill it about right to there. That is about 1/4 of an inch maybe. Half an inch maybe from the top of the jar. And I don't know if you can see what beautiful color this has. It almost looks like, I don't know, I've seen pictures of people making dandelion honey and all of that kind of stuff, or dandelion jelly. This kind of has that look, just light golden brown and beautiful. Now I sterilized quite a few jars just because I couldn't remember how many jars it took. So I got enough of them out and sterilized enough so I wouldn't run out. These are 1/2 pint jars, so let's see how many we get. Probably put a little bit more in that one. So I'm going to have to somehow weight this down. Will that work? Nope. All right. Because, here we go. There we go. I'm gonna just try that. Pray I don't make a mess. I've got to tilt this and I can only do it with both hands. Woohoo! There we go. Ooh, that's beautiful. That works. this is making a lot of ghee. 4 pounds of butter. So far we have filled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 half pints with liquid ghee. And it smells like caramelized toast. It has a very nutty, toasted, caramelized smell to it. I just really wish you could smell what I'm smelling right now. It's beautiful, beautiful smell. I'm starting to get little tiny flecks of that stuff on the bottom. I'm trying to be very careful not to stir it up any. And I'll show you what's left of the residue. Oh yeah, this what do you call this thing? This thing right here, strainer, hello, is doing really, really well. Now, I don't have much ghee left. I'm almost out, so I'm not going to be able to fill this last jar, but I'm going to be very cautious when I pour this. Try to keep all of that toasted residue back in the pan. There's some that's coming out, but it's getting caught in the strainer, so I'm good. Okay, that last jar right here, I'm just going to put a lid on that, and we'll use that first. All right, now I'm going to take my hot lids. First of all, hold on. I have to get a paper towel. I forgot. It's getting late and I'm tired. Okay, so I'm going to wipe the rims here. Make sure none of that butter sticks. Butter sticks. Okay then. Hot, hot, hot. Another handy tool. Jar gripper. Love, love. There we go. Now, the reason I'm not water bath canning any of this is because the jars, the lids, the ghee is fat and it is extremely hot all on its own. And we cooked it to death, got rid of all of the milk solids that spoil easily, and this does not need to be water bathed, processed. But I am going to show you, oh, that was sweet. I am going to show you what I'm going to do here. I'll wipe that off. I dropped it. Once all of these lids are on, And yes, even with the jar that's only half full, I'm gonna put the lid on it. And show you what I'm gonna do. All right. Now these jars are too hot to hold on the side. So I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do. Instead of water bath canning these, to make sure the lids are super hot and they seal, I'm going to do this. I'm going to turn them upside down, make sure the lids are nice and tight. And I'm going to let them sit on their heads upside down for 5 minutes, maybe 10, doesn't matter. It's not going to solidify in that amount of time because everything is so stinking hot. And even this one that's only half full, I do the same thing to it. And oh, see, look at it, it's got residue in it. This one had residue in it. So this one I'm going to use up first, but I'm going to let this go for 10 minutes, maybe 15, and then I will turn them right side up and let them ping and seal. And they are good for years and years and years. And the beautiful thing about ghee, there's a saying about ghee, it doesn't have a shelf life, it has a half-life. Ghee is like honey. It just never goes bad, never. Yeah, no expiration date. It's got a half-life, not a shelf life. I have used ghee that I made probably 4 years earlier. Popped that puppy open, it sealed, it was good. And I just let it sit out next to my toaster and next to my stove or wherever I happen to use it. And I use it to saute because it does not have a low burn, like a low flash burn ratio, which means you can have the heat on really high and it won't burn. It's wonderful for sauteing anything, really. I love ghee. I use it to saute and cook, and it's fabulous. And it never expires. It is a great survival butter, if you will, to do yourself for the cost of 4 pounds of butter, which is like what 10 or 11 bucks. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 half-pint jars full of ghee that will last me for years. All right? So I really hope you've enjoyed this video and learned how to make your own Learn to make your own ghee with patience, low and slow. Don't be in a hurry, because ghee is not going to be in a hurry. Once it's done, it's going to provide for you for years. And I'll show you what the end jar looks like when it's cooled and done. All right, this is a PS to my video. You look at the milk solids, how they're toasted and just in there, and look at the bottom of the pan. Look how much junk and milk solids were in that butter, 4 pounds of butter. That's what makes people sick right there, the milk solids in butter. Once they're toasted off, you get this rich golden yellow when it's hot. When it solidifies, it turns white, and I'll show you a picture of that. But yeah, that's pretty cool, huh? Okay, it's set for a few hours, and they're cool. Every single can has, or jar I should say, has sealed, and it is good to go for years to come. It looks white, kind of a pale yellow, creamy white. Look at that. Clean, no lactose residue, no milk solids at the bottom. Um, this, my friends, is proper ghee. It will last you for years to come. Years to come. I got 7.5 quarts out of 4 pounds of unsalted butter.